Last time we saw the two verses of the Gita Dhyana shlokas. Verse number 6, which compared the war to a river and told us that to cross this river, the Pandavas could cross the river with the help of the boatman, and the boatman is Keshava or Krishna. And we saw the various stories, uh, even though Bhagwan never actually fought or actually lifted up any weapons, because that's what he had said. But he had the knowledge because of which the Pandavas could overcome the Kauravas. Bhagwan represents intelligence. Subjectively, if you see this verse, Bhagwan is our intellect. So if we let our intellect guide us, we can also cross this ocean of sansar or river of sansar. You know, not that we have an actual war outside, but there is a war raging within us all the time. And to win that war, if we keep Bhagwan as our charioteer or as our intellect, it'll be easy to cross over. In verse 7, Madhusudan Saraswati ji compares this Bharata Pankajam, Bharata Mahabharata, this epic, this history, Mahabharata, to a Pankaja is lotus, to a lotus, which is born out of the mouth of Bhagwan Ved Vyasa. He wrote it, and it has the fragrance of Bhagavad Gita. In the Mahabharata, people may or may not have read or may not have, I mean, I don't think anybody in India has not heard of Mahabharata, but Bhagavad Gita is the most famous portion of the Mahabharata. The two contributions of Mahabharata are Bhagavad Gita and Vishnu Sahasranam. But even more than Vishnu Sahasranam, Bhagavad Gita everybody knows. So the reason that this the fragrance of the flower, you know, the flower may not be near us, but we can still get the fragrance. So that way, Mahabharata we may not have read, or we may not have heard about it, or we may not know the details of it, but Bhagavad Gita, the fragrance of that Mahabharata is in the Bhagavad Gita, and that's why he says Gita Artha Gandha Utkatam. The essence of the Gita is the fragrance of this lotus, and it has got many soft petals, which are the Hari Katha. So there are many stories in Mahabharata. Harikatha necessarily doesn't mean it's a story about God only something, but it is a story which will guide you in the right direction. So there'll be a story and there'll be a moral to it. And then that, if we follow that, it'll guide us in the right direction. Therefore, there are many petals, many stories, which are like the petals of this lotus. And then Sajjan Loka, so the noble people, they will go right into the essence of the Mahabharata, in essence of the Bhagavad Gita, and take the nectar. And they are like the six-legged bee. The bee, just as the bee goes for the essence, the bee is not concerned with the beauty and the fragrance. Outside external things, the bee is not concerned. It will go directly into the flower to get the essence. That way, I've told you, Bhagavad Gita is studied because of its grammar and sandhi and samas and poetic language, etc. So that is all the externalities. The real spiritual seekers will not be so much enchanted by the externalities, but they will go dive deep into the Bhagavad Gita to get the philosophy. That is the reason that we mission, through the mission, we will be studying, there'll be more emphasis on the philosophy that is being told rather than the language. Okay, when we study the philosophy. We study Bhagavad Gita for its philosophy, not for its poetic beauty and grammatical construction or nothing externalities. And these Sajjana Loka, these noble people, having gained that essence, they become very happy. They drink the essence as they drink the nectar of this Bhagavad Gita or Mahabharata, and they become extremely happy. So that's where we were. Next verse 8. Mukam karoti vachalam panghum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande paramananda madhavam. I salute that supreme bliss, Madhava, whose grace renders the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. So I salute Parama Ananda Madhava, that supreme bliss, Madhava, Ma means husband and Dhava means wealth. So the husband of wealth, husband of Shri, husband of Lakshmi ji. So Bhagwan Vishnu. So Madhava, that's how it's one of the names of Bhagwan Vishnu, or Krishna also is known as Madhava. Tamaham Vande, I salute this Madhava, this husband of Lakshmi. Why? Yat Krapa, because of whose grace, Mukam Karoti Vachalam. So this verse, we take it at two levels. One level is the physical level. So physically a person is dumb, physically he cannot speak. Bhagwan's grace can make him speak. So even though he's born dumb, Bhagwan's grace can make him speak. We see that in the case of Totakacharya, who was a disciple of Bhagwan Shankaracharya, who could not speak. He was dumb, but Bhagwan just made him speak. And not only made him speak, but the first time that he spoke ever, he used to listen to Bhagwan's lectures, but he had never spoken. He gave out the Totakashtakam. So he gave out 8 verses describing the supreme reality. So that is the grace. So one who is physically dumb can become Vachalam, can have speech. And one who is a cripple, he will cross over mountains. Girim is mountain. So a cripple will cross over the mountain. And this is at the physical level. But if you take this subjectively, Mukam, dumb, is a person who is ignorant. Ignorant of what? Ignorant of the truth, ignorant of the supreme reality, ignorant of his own nature. Such a person, Bhagwan's grace can make him, Vachala means it can make him very educated in that knowledge, in the truth. So subjectively, I didn't know this truth, but the grace can carry me over. We have seen a lot about grace, Guru's grace also, because Guru is none other than God, because he is a Brahmanishta. He is one with Brahman. So Guru or God's grace, Guru's grace can do it. I told you Bhagwan Shankaracharya, what about God? So a person who is ignorant about his own nature can become knowledgeable. So that is the subjective meaning. Now, Vachalam, even if a person is, say, physically silent, you know what is more Vachalam? Vachalam is talkative. Talkative is the mind. The mind is constantly chattering. So subjectively, one whose mind is chattering too much, God's grace can make it quieten. So that way you take it. So when the mind quietens, then it becomes very easy to understand this knowledge. So that is the reason. Now, Pangum Langahete Giram means this path is very difficult. Mountain is what? Mountain is more difficult to cross over than if you're walking on a flat road. And if a person is lame, is crippled, it'll be even more difficult for him to cross. It's difficult for him to walk on a straight road, flat road. How about the mountain? How difficult it will be. Now, subjectively, this path is like a mountain actually. It is very, very difficult. The path is difficult. Kathopanishad itself says this is like a razor. It is like walking on a razor, on a blade. How difficult that will be. But Bhagwan's grace can make you cross over. This is what. So we are a cripple as far as this path of spirituality is concerned. Cripple means what? Not physically cripple, but difficult to walk. It is difficult for us to walk, but Bhagwan's grace can make it very, very easy, and his grace can make us cross over this path very easily. Okay, that is the subjective. And of course, at an external level, Bhagwan is Sarva Shaktiman, so he can do anything. So somebody who cannot speak can speak, etc., etc. Now the final one. Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam na vidussura suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Salutations unto that Godhead, whom the Creator Brahmaji, Lord Varuna, Lord Indra, Lord Rudra, and the Lord of the Maruts invoke with their divine hymns, whom the singers of the Samas songs invoke through their correct and appropriate chantings, whom the yogis realize with their minds absorbed in the goal of their contemplation through perfect meditation, and whose limits are not known even to the denizens of the heavens or to the asuras of the nether kingdom. So we start off with the last three words of this verse, the last line, Devaya Tasmai Namaha. Deva, God, general. Okay, we'll see who this God is. Oh God, my salutations to you. Okay, who is this God? How is this God? Yasya antam na viduhu sura asura ganaha. The first part of that line. This God is such whose beginning, whose end is not known. Na viduhu, with dhatu, to know. It's not known by whom? By the suras. Suras are who? Heavens, the denizens of the heavens. Asura. Asuras are the other, that time it was like Rakshasas. It's not Rakshasas, that very ugly figure. Those who are very body oriented, those who are identified with their bodies, they are Asuras. Opposed to them are Suras. Suras are those who are not as identified with the body. So this God that I salute, his beginning and end, his or hers, we don't know. Beginning and end is not known even by the suras and the asuras, what to talk of us humans. That is the idea. Now, whom, yam, this God, whom, Brahmaji, okay, here, the creator, Varuna, these are all the gods. These are deities, devatas. Consider them as the ministers appointed by the president or the prime minister. So the supreme reality, to have, to control these various aspects in the cosmos. Simplest example is we have a federal government, we have a prime minister, we have a president, whatever. And then there are so many portfolios. So there is a defense portfolio, there's a home portfolio, there is environment, there is finance, there is this, that. So what he appoints these ministers to take care of these portfolios. In the same way, the supreme reality has empowered these deities to take care of certain things. So there's Brahma, Varuna is there, rain. Indra is there. Indra is the Lord, the king of the heavens. Rudra is there. Rudra is an aspect of Lord Shiva who looks after destruction. Maruta is there. There are Maruts. These things will come. Maruts are also the devas. Stunvanti divyahi stavaihi. Stava is to stuti, to do stuti, to do praise. That is where this stavaihi word comes. So these devatas are praising this God, okay, that I am saluting. I told you we'll see who the God is. So they are constantly chanting the praises of this God. Vedaihi Sanga, this Yam Samagaha, see Gayanti Yam Samaga, Sama Veda, out of the four Vedas, Rig, Yajur, Sama and Atharva, Sama Veda is Giti Pradhan. It is known as Giti Pradhan. So the verses, the mantras that are in this particular Veda can be sung. It has a tune, it has music. That is why Bhagwan Ved Vyas, that is how he has classified. The Rig Veda mantras are prose. The Yajur Veda mantras are all for the rituals. The Sama Veda is for singing. So all the musical, those mantras that had musical, connotations, they were put in Samaveda. And Atharva is the sciences of the world. So there is astrology, astronomy, Vedic mathematics, all this medicine, Ayurveda, all this comes in Atharva Veda. This is how these Vedas have been divided. Just a general introduction to the Vedas. So Samagayan, there are people who do Samagayan. See, they study this and they do Sa. So these people who do Samagayan also, they praise this God. Through their Gayan, through their singing, they praise this God. And then this God, Dhyana Vastita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha. So the yogis who are doing meditation, they meditate on this God. So see, first of all, this God is such whose beginning and end nobody knows. Then whose praises are sung by the deities, by the gods. Okay. And then the people who do Samagayan, they also praise this God. This God is meditated upon by the yogis. Yogi is one who is into meditation. He's a seeker. Yogi is also a seeker. Many meanings to yogi, but the one who is doing meditation, he's meditating on this God. Dhyana avastita tad gatena manasa. So this God is being meditated upon. So the puzzle is, who is this God? It is the truth. It is the supreme reality as told by Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So this is the God whose beginning and end is not known. Supreme reality, no beginning, no end. The devatas are praising the supreme reality because it's like the ministers praising the prime minister. So because of the supreme reality has given them the authority to take care of all these various portfolios in this cosmos. So they praise. It's like supreme reality is their boss. If we put it in general terms, they're praising the boss. Then the Samaga and those who are, because they know that the subject matter of the Vedas is the supreme reality. So they are, through their singing, they are also praising the same God, and that same God, that same truth is being meditated upon by the yogis. Okay, so this concludes the Gita Dhyana shlokas, and then we go into introduction of the Bhagavad Gita. Are there any questions regarding this portion so far? Everybody okay? All right. So let's see what Bhagavad Gita is all about. So the first thing we know, just a general information, 700 verses appearing in the middle of Mahabharata, told by Bhagavan Shri Krishna to Arjuna. So the first question that comes is, why Arjuna? Why was Arjun picked to receive this knowledge? Because Yudhishthir was there, Bhim was there, other people were there. Why Arjun? Arjun in those days, if we read Arjun's character in Mahabharata, it was extremely brilliant. He was very valorous. There was not a single war that he had lost in his life. It is said he was extremely handsome. He was very dharmic. It is all good. And a lot of people looked up to him. They wanted to become like him. You know, when there is an athlete, then you look, who wants to, you know, a student who wants to excel in whatever subject he'll have a role model in that subject. Just 2 days ago, I heard the name of Tiger Woods in golf something. So the one who wants to master golf will have Tiger Woods as his role model, right? We will look up to that person whom we want to become like. And Arjun was that sort of a person in those days. And so Bhagavan thought that if I tell him, and if he accepts this philosophy, and if he follows the philosophy, then people who are following him will also follow that philosophy, right? Isn't that not what we do when we imitate? We imitate somebody, then we do whatever he is doing or she is doing. So that way, Arjun was looked upon very highly by the youth of those times. And therefore, Bhagavan said that if I tell Arjun, then if he understands, he will understand. He's very intelligent, and he will follow, and others will follow him. And that's the reason that Arjun was picked. Okay, what is the message of Gita? What is the ultimate message of Bhagavad Gita? The ultimate message of Bhagavad Gita is twofold. It is actually moksha, but moksha itself is twofold. So moksha is defined as Paramananda Prapti or Nirankusha Trupti and Atyantika Dukkha Nivrutti. So there are two aspects to moksha, which is liberation, and the two aspects are Paramananda Prapti, Prapti gain, Parama Ananda, Parama Supreme. So when I say, when the word Ananda is used, it is generally, it's used in Marathi, Hindi also. People automatically translate it as happiness. That is not correct. In Ananda, this supreme Ananda means bliss. And bliss is, it is not one of the pair of opposites. That is the main thing. Happiness is opposed to sorrow. So when there is sorrow, there is no happiness. And when there is happiness, there is no sorrow. But when there is bliss, it doesn't matter whether there is happiness or sorrow, you are in that permanent bliss. That is what Paramananda, Paramananda is. Parama Ananda, supreme bliss. A bliss which can never be disturbed by anything that is happening outside and within. That is the bliss. Nirankusha Trupti is the same thing. Trupti means contentment. And Nirankusha, Nir, this prefix means without. Nir, it will come many times. Nir is without. Without Ankusha. Ankusha is an obstacle. May I request all of you to hold on to your questions till the end, please. So I'm going to be giving time for questions. So just hold on to your questions, okay? Because otherwise it disturbs the flow. So this Nirankusha Trupti, contentment, Nirankusha, Ankusha, you know, Ankusha is the thing, the goad that is used by the Mahu to guide the elephant. So it's like an obstacle. So a contentment which can have no obstacle. So you are content no matter what is happening outside and what is happening within you. That is one aspect. And the second aspect is Atyantika Dukkha Nivrutti. Nivrutti is withdrawal. So a cessation of all sorrows, all sorrows, that no matter what happens, you will not become sorrowful. That is what moksha is. So sorrows come, sorrow will come. Now, not cessation of sorrow doesn't mean that the sorrows will stop coming. Please, that cannot happen, because whatever is coming to us is through our own destiny, through our prarabdha from our past life. So that will come. But to be or not to be sorrowful is in my hands. Hamlet, to be or not to be. So sorrow will come. Whether to become sorrowful or not sorrowful is in my hands. And a realized master will never become sorrowful. Sorrow will come. We see Raman Maharshi had cancer. Ramakrishna Paramahansa had cancer. Gurudev had heart problems, bypass. So these things are coming to the body. They will come because it is the prarabdha of the body. Sorrow will come. Cessation of sorrows should not be misunderstood as if I study Bhagavad Gita, or then it will not come to me, or if I realize this thing, sorrow will not come. But that paristhiti, that situation will not affect me in a way that it affects somebody else. So I will not become sorrowful if I realize. This is the final essence. This is the final message of Bhagavad Gita, is moksha. And these are the two aspects of moksha. Now the question arises, how do you say that? How can you say that with such, such a conviction that this is what Gita is telling us? Is because it has been spoken by Bhagavan. So that word is extremely important. When we study, when we go into the text, we will see it says Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. It does not say Shri Krishna Uvacha. Krishna has many names. Gopal is there, Govind is there, Vasudev is there. So why is it not saying Shri Krishna Uvacha? When we say, oh, this is Bhagavan, Krishna told to Arjun, we say like that, but the text itself doesn't say. So we need to understand what exactly Bhagavan is. The word Bhagavan is made out of two syllables, Bhaga and Vana. Vana means possessor, one who possesses. So we have words like Balavan, we have Dhanavan, and we have Buddhiman, just to give you 3 examples. Man and Van, that Ma and Va, they interchange. So in Buddhi, it becomes Buddhiman, and there also Man means possessor, possessor of Buddhi, possessor of intellect. Balavan, possessor of strength, and Dhanavan, possessor of wealth. So Bhagavan becomes possessor of Bhaga. So we have to understand what Bhaga is. Bhaga is a 6-fold wealth. It is also wealth. But it is not just the ordinary meaning of wealth where we think wealth as money. It doesn't mean, it has got 6 aspects to it. It has got six-pronged wealth, you can say, Bhaga has. Aishwarya, Yasha, Dharma, Shri, Vairagya, and Jnana. These are the 6 aspects of Bhaga. Okay, what is so special about all this? What is special about these 6 aspects is that Bhagavan is one who has 100% of these 6 aspects, 100% of the time. Note, 100% of all, 100% of the time. So what is Aishwarya? Aishwarya is lordship. So 100% of lordship means not lordship over one kingdom, one village, one country, one planet. No, not even one planet. Entire solar system. No, not even entire solar system. If there are 1,000 suns, as the astronomers tell us now, then lordship over all the planetary systems of all those 1,000 suns, plus if there is anything more which we don't know, lordship over that as well. That sort of lordship no human being can have. A king may become king. We have seen Alexander the Great, we have seen Hitler, lordship over a few countries, but that's it. They ended in that. So okay, and is this lordship like maybe it's there for some time and then it'll vanish? No, no, that's why 100% of the time, 100% lordship. Okay, now lordship is there. Maybe he's not famous, or maybe he's infamous. No, he has 100% fame. Yasha. Yasha means fame. So 100% fame, 100% of the time. See, when we look at people, human beings, they become famous for some time, but they lose it. For some reason or the other, they lose it. Or they may have lordship over 100% lordship, nobody has, but maybe over some, for a period of time, they have lordship over them. But then they themselves get finished, and or somebody else more powerful comes and their lordship goes away. Okay. So Aishwarya, Yasha, Dharma. See, the one who has lordship over the entire cosmos, and one who is also has got Yasha, fame, may not be very dharmic. This word dharma will come many times, and it is the most misunderstood word. So every time it comes, it will have a different connotation. And the connotation here of dharma is righteousness. The first thing that comes to our mind, unfortunately, is Hindu dharma, Muslim dharma, Christian dharma. That meaning should be actually wiped out from our mind when we are studying Bhagavad Gita. When we are in our spiritual studies, this dharma in the entire Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan never refers to dharma as being a Hindu dharma, this dharma, it doesn't. There'll be different meanings. So that, never let it come into your mind. So dharma means righteousness over here. Righteousness. So he's very righteous. So he doesn't do anything wrong. Bhagavan cannot and will not and does not do anything wrong. Dharma. Now, a person who has lordship and fame and so much righteousness, maybe he doesn't have money. Maybe he's poor. No, he has 100. Lakshmi ji is pressing his feet. Please remember. See, people go after Lakshmi. They don't understand Lakshmi is very chanchal. She runs and people run after her. So Gurudev told us, don't run after Lakshmi, hold on to Narayan. Hold on to Bhagwan Vishnu. Lakshmi is pressing his feet. She will not leave his feet. So there's no need to run at all. And he is only lying on the Shaya. He is not running. See the symbolism. Bhagwan is lying, aram se. He's not going anywhere. He's not in a rush. So we don't even have to run. We can just hold on to him. We hold on to him. Lakshmi is at the feet. You run after Lakshmi, she will be running. So he may not have money. But he has Shri. So he has 100% of wealth, 100% of the time. Now, one who has these four things, Aishwarya, do you think he'll ever have dispassion? That is the beauty of Bhagwan. In spite of having all these things, 100%, 100%, he is extremely dispassionate. He's absolutely untouched by all this. And because he has 100% dispassion, complete dispassion, he has got 100% jnana. And jnana here means moksha. So he has liberation. He has jnana. And that is the greatness of this word Bhagavan. So because that's why it says Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, because Bhagavan has said it, it is absolutely true. It was true 5,000 years ago when it was told to Arjun. It is true today, and it will remain true for another, as long as the world continues. These words will remain true. They will never get falsified. That is the importance of Bhagavan Uvacha. And that's it. That is why it is written as Bhagavan Uvacha and not Krishna Vacha. Another meaning of Bhagavan is also one who knows the past, present, and future of all the jivas. And I use the word jivas. So this jiva word must include all the animals, plants, reptiles, birds, everything. Jiva. Jiva is common. Jiva doesn't mean human being. Human being is because of the form. The body tells us that this is a human being, but a jiva has got no form. Jiva is formless. Okay, so he knows the past, present, and future of all the jivas. This is what Bhagavan is. That's why this word must not be used lightly for anybody. And because Bhagavan has said this, and because he says that this will lead you to moksha, it will lead you to moksha. And these are the two aspects of moksha: Paramananda Prapti and Atyantik Dukh Nivrutti. Okay. Now, how does Bhagavad Gita enable this? How do I get moksha by studying Bhagavad Gita? Or why should I study Bhagavad Gita? If I say, why should I study? Okay, for moksha. And then how is Bhagavad Gita doing it? So Bhagavad Gita does it through two paths. There are two paths that will be expounded in the Bhagavad Gita. One is known as Pravritti Lakshana Dharma. The word dharma is coming again. So now it has a different connotation. So there is Pravritti Lakshana Dharma and Nivrutti Lakshana Dharma. So Dharma here means a way of living. Okay. Here it doesn't mean righteousness. That's why I told you, dharma will change its meaning many, many times. So dharma here means a way of living. So there are two ways of living that Bhagavad Gita expounds. Pravritti, Lakshana, characteristic. So Pravritti Lakshana, way of living, is a set of external values, external virtues, which will give you material prosperity. That is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. If you want material prosperity, Bhagavad Gita will give you that. But Nivrutti Lakshana is, Nivrutti is withdrawal, Pravritti is engagement. So Nivrutti Lakshana is a set of internal values, internal virtues, which will give you moksha. So you choose. What do you want? You want material prosperity? That's fine. Bhagavad Gita will tell you. You want moksha? That's fine. Bhagavad Gita will tell you that also. Now, what are these two paths? Okay. So the very fact, and this is more applicable to the younger people, grahasthas, the very fact that we have taken birth indicates that we have desires. If we did not have any desires, our birth only would not have happened. But it has happened. We are at this point now where we have taken birth, whatever our family background, etc., might be, birth has happened, indication of desires. Now, Shruti recognizes, Bhagavad Gita recognizes that there are desires, and these desires need to be fulfilled because the desires had to be fulfilled, birth happened. So purpose of birth is to fulfill desires. So Shruti gives, Bhagavad Gita gives pravritti lakshana dharma. She tells us, now when a desire is to be fulfilled, action has to be there. If there is a desire in my mind to get a university degree, I can't just sit at home, and university is not going to mail me a degree. I will have to attend university, study, give their exams, do whatever their qualifying things are, and then I get. So action, it becomes imperative. It becomes mandatory for fulfillment of desires. Question is, how do I act? How do I engage in this world? This is what Bhagavad Gita will tell us. What are the rules of engagement in the world? And then the question will arise, why should I engage with these rules? Why can't I have my own rules? So the point is, the one who wants to go into moksha, whose ultimate goal is moksha. And why should my ultimate goal be moksha? That is what Shruti also is telling us that. Vedas tell us that the ultimate goal of human birth is moksha, is to, realize, recognize our own swarupa, our own nature. This is Shruti, Vedas tell us this. Okay. And so if I believe in the Vedas, and if I do want to attain that Paramananda, it is such a blissful state from which there is no coming back. So if I want that, okay, but I have my desire still, okay, fine. Gita says that's fine. You engage, because your desires cannot be fulfilled without action. There is no way that a desire can be fulfilled without any kind of action. You engage, but I will tell you the rules of engagement. If you follow those rules of engagement, nivrutti dharma will become very easy. Withdrawal will become easy, because at some stage in your life, you will have to withdraw if you want moksha. If you want moksha, if you just want to keep fulfilling your desires and keep achieving things in the material world, then you just go on doing whatever, and you're going to go through this cycle of birth and death, and that's it. You remain bound. If those of you who are from India, the train, you must have traveled in a train. So the trains go, and then if the train has to change direction, then what the guard does is that the rails, at one point, the track will sort of deviate, and then it'll attach to the next track. Do you understand what I'm getting at? Right? Okay. Now, when the train is going straight, and then the tracks, they change, and then the train very smoothly, it moves on to the other track, right? It moves on to a different. So with pravritti and nivrutti, it is like that. So first you are on that track of pravritti. And yes, Bhagavad Gita says, yes, I understand. You have desires and you want to engage, and please do engage. Bhagavad Gita, that is why Bhagavad Gita appeals to the younger, this thing. Upanishad, when we teach, Upanishad does not talk of pravritti dharma at all. All Upanishads will only talk of nivrutti dharma. Now what happens is, those who have this pravritti, they find it extremely difficult to understand this concept. And that's why we are in Bhagavad Gita now. You want to engage, no problem. You engage, but with the rules that I'm going to tell you. Why? Because you engage, and then slowly this pravritti has to move on into nivrutti. And when the movement happens, there should be no pain. If there is pain, that is no good. That is no good. Then you need to stay on this track. So painless transition, for a painless transition from pravritti to nivrutti, from engagement to withdrawal, if it has to happen, if you want it to be painless, then follow the rules of engagement. Follow the rules of Bhagavad Gita that are given for engagement. By following those rules, you will automatically start developing those internal values. Follow the external values that are given. External values are always easier to follow than internal values. And so when you follow these external values, you will automatically at that time start developing the internal values, which will make it extremely easy for you to change tracks. That is what happens. People don't come into this knowledge at a young age. They keep on engaging, not with the rules, They do not have the rules. They don't know the rules of engagement. And then what happens is the body cannot do things and the mind does not want to move because the internal values have not been developed. And then there is friction, and then there is strife, and then there are things saying old age is difficult, old age difficult, old age is difficult. It is not. If in your young days you have followed, it is something like this. You start your work on day one, they call you, at least I was called into the manager's office and said, you have to start contributing towards your retirement fund. Why? Because retirement is 100% sure. So to transition from employment into retirement, you start preparation from day one. From your first paycheck, you start putting away money to transition, which is going to come later. When you first start, you don't even think of retirement. But the employer thinks, and he says, you want to transition, you will have to transition at some point in time in your life. You start preparing from day one. For the spiritual studies also, you have to transition. What we say, not to put away money, put away time. Time is what is required here. And that's why we have classes once a week. And we say that at least 1 hour in the whole week, if you can give to these studies, then transition will be easy. And if your goal is moksha, if you want that happiness, please remember that all of us are looking for happiness only. Nobody is looking for sorrow. What we are doing is we want happiness, and we think that by getting this, that, and the other, I will get happiness. That's why it is never a supreme bliss. Because when that thing goes away or when circumstances change, we become sorrowful. So if you want that Paramananda Prapti, which is promised, then this is what this is. There is more introduction, but I'm going to stop here and give you time for questions as requested so that we don't go over time. So yes, I think Shivram, you had a question.
Hariom Jayaji.
Hariom.
I'm sort of not very sure how to phrase this, Jayaji, but when you were explaining Ananda as a state of bliss, the question that came to me at that point of time suddenly was the experiential knowledge is always in this experiential world. But when you talk of bliss, that state is not of this world, then how is it an experience? Because bliss again is explained as happiness in a very different way because of shortage of words or whatever in English language. So that is where I don't know how to put this question correctly, Jaji, but that is what was in my mind. Like when we talk about Ananda at that level,
see,
can
because
it be explained in words, or is it not an experience?
It cannot be. That's what I was saying. Like you yourself said, that there is a limitation on words. Words are always limited. So the Ananda that we talk about, or Shruti talks about, it is not an experience either. But we cannot explain it like that, na?
Okay.
That's why we say that experience of bliss, but it is actually not an experience. No, it is just being, just being.
It cannot even be called a state, right, Jayaji?
No, no. Turiya, right? Fourth.
Turiya,
State.
fourth.
To explain, we say state, but it's not a state. It is your very basic nature.
Okay. So, yes. Jayaji, I had a question. The thing is, they also say that this is a state that cannot be returned from. That once you acquire it, you never lose it.
Yes.
But I get it seems that people do lose it, or if it is our nature of Ananda and Supreme Self, we are ignorant of it. So somehow ignorance does come in. The question is, if you're someone liberated, how does ignorance again creep up and make him forget it, or how does that come up again?
Okay. the one who is really realized, he will never come back. This is promised by Bhagavad Gita itself. Bhagavan himself says, Yat gatva na nivartante. Bhagavan will say that many times. This is 15th chapter, but he will say it before within the 6 chapters also. It is a place or a state, and again, it is a limitation of words. Place means should not be said as a destination, because it is just us right here and now. Moksha is here and now. So he says, once you get a glimpse of that, people do not come back. But when you go into higher Vedanta, what it is people get a glimpse of it. The perfect example is Raman Maharshi. At 16, he got a glimpse of that at home. And then he, of course, because of your prarabdha, because say your time to liberate also is decided. So if that has not come, what happens is you get a glimpse and you will come back. But now that glimpse attracts you, because you have experienced that state, if I misuse those words, even for a little while, you know how great that state is. And once you know that, you will go after it. And that is the reason that he left home. Right away, he realized that there is nothing. I am not dependent on this body. I'm not dependent on, nobody is dependent on anybody. Nobody is, because we are all that supreme reality, supreme self. Once that realization comes, he left home, he went, he was always wanting to stay in that state. So then he practiced. You need practice of, that's why people get confused. They say, what is there to, why should there be practice of samadhi? There has to be a practice of samadhi. It has to happen. So all these realized masters, don't think that just once they got a glimpse and they realized. No. They have practiced. So he went behind the temple, and then for months and months and months, he never wanted to come back into this state. And then after he became very much established, it's a matter of practice. Driving, that's why I've always given that example. A person goes and gets a license. Is he called as an expert driver? The day I got my license, was I an expert driver? I wasn't. I was just given the permission to drive. I could drive, and I passed the things. Then I drove again and again and again, and then I became in. So same thing is with samadhi. Samadhi, you get a glimpse of that supreme reality. You do come back, but now that you've got a glimpse, now that you know, even in driving, now that you know you can drive the car and you can go, and it has given you independence, you will want to drive more and more. And so that practice and getting established, but once they get established, no, they do not come back. They do not. It may appear like they've come back. Like Swami Vivekananda and Gurudev, they chose. That's why Shruti gives them the liberty. So Swami Vivekananda also chose to come and give discourses. Gurudev also chose that. But if you look at Tapon Maharaj, Raman Maharshi, they said, no, this is all a dream. What disciple, what guru? They meant. But out of the compassion, because if every realized master, and believe me, there are many apparently in the Himalayas, they don't want to come anywhere near people. They're like, whole thing is a dream. But if every realized master said that, how would we ignorant people ever get to know this knowledge? That's why also Shruti has made provision that there will be some masters who will want to come and teach. But that doesn't mean that they are doing it out of compassion. There is no ego or egocentric desire behind that.
Can I just ask a quick question? What within us is looking for moksha?
Ego. You've asked this question before. Ego.
Ego is looking for moksha?
Because who is looking for, I say, I want moksha, right? Who is that I? I is the ego. When I say I see, I hear, I taste, I touch, I want to do, I want a degree, I want money, I want hungry, I'm hungry, I'm this, I'm that, that I is referring to the ego. So when I say I want moksha, it is ego who is very, very ignorant, who doesn't know that he's already mukta, he's already liberated, he doesn't know that. That is the ignorance. That is the ignorance. The study has to be done to come to the realization that I am already realized, that I am already free, that I was never bound. I am not bound even now. And nobody can ever bind me, because bondage is not real. But to know this and to get established in it, studies are required. And the studying is being done by the ego, because the supreme reality doesn't require any studying. Everything ego is doing.
So,
Jayaji, sorry, Dinesh, please go ahead.
sorry, thanks. It is, so what is the difference between, again, forgetfulness and say lack of practice? It's like if you're driving and you stop driving, sometimes you forget, and sometimes you're more like what is called rusty. So you have to practice again, and then you get back on track. And sometimes you have to start from the basics again, go back to the driving lessons and start again. So is that something like that even on the spiritual journey where you have to do these things?
No. Again, Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, Bhagavan says that you start practicing, you are on the spiritual path, and say you've reached a certain stage, and say you give it up. There are people who give up in this life, but when they get their next birth, they will continue from that point. All of us have continued, we have done this in the past. That's why at different ages, we have now come into this path, depending on how much preparation we had done in the past. It never goes waste. It never goes waste. And of course, this is, I'm talking of the seeker, but the one who has already gained that, he never comes back even. He or she, they don't come back into this mortal life. So there is no question of that getting rusty or anything like that. It is beyond, getting rusty and all is in the realm of the upadhis, of the conditionings. Whereas this is beyond the conditionings, where there is no mind, there is no intellect. So there is no question of getting rusty, forgetting, nothing like that. See, even in ours, when I get up in the morning, do I have to remind myself that I am a woman? Any one of us. Do you remind, oh, I'm a man, huh? And I am, so and so. Do I remind myself? Don't I inherently know? Don't I inherently? That is that inherently you will come to know that you are Brahman. You're the Supreme. Inherently. Right now, the first thought comes is, okay, I'm Jaya, and then I've got this to do, that to do. So that is all relating to the conditioning.
Thank you, Jayesh.
Anything else?
Shivramji, you had a...
I sort of lost the question. I kind of lost. But Jayaji, what you say is so true. If I am so strongly established in this lifetime with so many identities, how strongly are my previous identities, identified? So losing them, oh my God, what a journey is this going to be? That scares me.
So there was also a question as to how to expand our ego. So this is, see, we can start at some place. So one place that we can start at is at least very basic. Not consider myself to be a Maharashtrian, a Punjabi, a South Indian. And if I can get established in the fact that I'm an Indian. First step, baby steps. Because yesterday I was talking about expanding the ego, right? So how do you do this? It's very difficult. And how do I do this? So I was thinking about that. So in the beginning, why don't I at least not consider, or even basic, if you want to go, see, in India, we have these caste system, and we'll talk about that also, what it is. But suppose if I'm a Brahmin, suppose if I stop thinking of myself as a Brahmin and just think of myself as a Hindu, that even is a baby step towards expanding my ego. Because with Brahmin, then I have separated myself from the other three castes, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. I've separated myself. And then being a Brahmin, then another misunderstanding is I'm superior to those guys. No. The caste is, they're like 4 pillars. They're not rungs of a ladder. So all four are required for the, the Brahmins are required to lead. That's why Purushottam, says Brahmins are the eyes or the face, and the Kshatriyas are the arms. You need action. And Vaishyas are the thighs, and the Shudras are the legs. Now, in your own body, can you say that the legs are inferior to the eyes? Eyes can see, but if the legs cannot walk, what good are the eyes? Your own body, if you think about it, your identification will start changing. Your thinking will start changing. Can you say that Vaishya? Oh, you see, a Brahmin will say, you're a Vaishya. I am Brahmin. Arey, he is the thighs in your body. You can say, get rid of my thighs. Who cares? You can't. You can't. So all four are required for society. Okay. So this is what we'll do. Raj, did you have something to say? You're muted. You're muted, Raj. You're muted.
Raji, you're muted.
No, you're muted again. Now.
Yeah, now. Okay. I have read somewhere that the people say that when they go into the samadhi, they see some glimpse, right? But they don't get they call it bodha, knowledge and both, right? Only realized peoples, they get the both. Both means, you get the real knowledge, what it is. Like in the world, we have the both that poison is not good. Doesn't matter you are thirsty or whatever it is, your bottle has a poison, you will never drink. That is our both. We have the experience for that. So the same thing, realized people, when they go into the samadhi, they get that both. That this world is delusion, it has nothing. And the both, they never forget.
Correct.
And you go that position when you have no like and dislike, and you are 100% in a Sotopadham.
Yeah. So this getting glimpses is not correct.
No, yeah, we come back.
Yeah. They hear voices. Some people say, oh, I heard bells ringing and this. That is not correct. And you're right. It is just understanding Buddha. So it is knowing your true nature. And at the same time, it is like basically waking up from a dream.
Yeah, experience. The experience they get.
Yeah.
Because when we know something in the worldly thing, and we experience with that, even the recipe or the tea, then that becomes our bodha, that these ingredients are good in that thing. So the same thing happens with the realized peoples. They totally get the clear in their head, and they don't want to come back that one.
Yeah, but in the experience of tea or coffee, there is some other object involved. So the experience of this, our own nature, there is nothing else involved.
Nothing else, yes.
There is that's why it's a limitation of words. We have to say you experience that state.
Yeah, that is an example for worldly things.
Yeah, but if you think, see, you're dreaming and now you suddenly wake up, what happens? Immediately you come to know that that is
that is
right. It is not an experience. You know that was an illusion. Say you were running away from something.
That's when it becomes the bodha, then that it is real.
So we will stop here today, and we will continue with a little bit more of the introduction, and we'll go into the verses proper next Sunday.